point is that engineering degree will open your career up to engineering adjacent roles in the engineering industry. So don't write it off. Hello, hello, hello. My name is Daniel, and this is the Engineering Success Podcast, episode 48. How you guys doing today? I am doing... Life is good. A lot of good things going on in life. Baby E is awesome. They're learning new skills every day. They're doing this thing now where they're touching their feet, grabbing their feet. It's pretty cool. Um, cool things going on at work. Good developments. I just gave a talk at Trinity University's chapter of ASME. So shout out to Dawson, Camille, Levi, John, Beachley, all of the folks that listened and have followed up with me afterwards. You guys are great. It was a great time. But man, uh, as many of you may know, I'm a massive Texas Rangers fan. And yesterday was game 5 of the American League Championship Series. And I have not felt that way about the outcome of a sporting event since game 6, 2011. So, man, if you're not a baseball fan and you're like, why am I listening to this on an engineering podcast? Well, I start out the podcast by talking about things I care about, and one of them is baseball. I'm still rocking my Rangers jersey, powder blues, for this episode. Gosh, man, I really, I really thought we had that one, and it's just that was heartbreaking. Anywho, I still think they have a chance. So, anyways, I know this is not a baseball podcast. You're here to hear about John Ott, our top tier supporter of the podcast. Thank you, John, for your support of the podcast. John is a top tier supporter of the podcast, which means he donates $10 a month to have his name shouted out. He got stickers in the mail. He got a personal thank you note from me, and he's one of my favorite people for supporting the podcast. You too can be a top tier supporter. The info is in the description of the video or in the description of the podcast. If you're listening to it, you can do it through Patreon. You can do it through Spotify's platform, and that money goes towards partially covering the domain hosting for my website, which is www.engringsuccess.com, engineeringsuccess.com with engringsuccess.com, where you can email at me at daniel@engringsuccess.com. And if you have any questions, a topic, you want to be on the podcast, anything like that, you can send me a note there and I will do my best to respond to it. Thank you, John, for your support. And again, that covers about half of the costs of maintaining the podcast. And if I have more supporters, then I'll be able to spend money on a couple other really cool things that to automate the podcast stuff for Reels generation on Instagram, Facebook Shorts, TikTok, all that kind of stuff. The more money I have will just be spent on helping spread the news of the podcast, spreading our content in more places. So if you feel so inclined to support the podcast, I appreciate it. Thank you, John. But yeah, I want to talk a little bit more about what I did in San Antonio. So I just came back from a trip from San Antonio, and I got to talk to the Trinity University chapter of the American Society of Mechanical Engineers, ASME. And I was the president of that club whenever I was a student there. And before that, I was the professional development chair. I got contacted by a current member, and they asked me to come give a talk. And I didn't know what to talk about at first, but then I eventually decided to talk about a couple things. I got to talk about my employer, which is one of the largest EPC firms in the world. I got to talk about what is EPC, and now I work in our engineering consulting arm. So, what is engineering consulting? And I got to share my career journey with them. And if you're interested in that, let me know. Maybe I could do a video about that. Maybe I can take that speech that I gave and turn it into a video. I think it would be interesting. But it was a really good time. That there was such an engaged group of kids. I mean, I think they were kind of shocked by how how casual I was maybe, but it's just it was a really fun time, and I love speaking. I'm so glad that I had the opportunity to do that. So thank you again, Dawson and Camille, for giving me that opportunity to come and talk to you guys. And if you guys are interested in having me as a speaker, I am interested in speaking engagements. So just send me an email at my email address, daniel@engringsuccess.com, and I would be happy to consider speaking at your event or for your club of engineering students, whether it be in person or virtual. All right, well, let's get into the podcast. Let's start it off with good old LinkedIn lunatics. But before we do that, actually, no, we can do that. Let's do it. Sorry, kids, gotta hustle. This is from Shannon, who posted this publicly. All right, let's cut the guilt trip. It's okay to miss your kids' birthdays or skip family dinners. Yes, I said it. Contrary to those tear-jerking posts that tell you you'll regret missing your kids' milestones, here's a slice of reality. Building a bright future for your children requires sacrifice. From day one, I've explained to my children that if dad's missing from the dinner table, it's because he's hustling to secure their future and to fund their dreams. Will I remember each business meeting on my deathbed? Hell no. But I'll remember with profound satisfaction is the lives my children have led, lives made possible by my hard work and sacrifice. So, fellow CEOs, embrace the tough choices. Your kids will understand, and one day they will thank you for it. I think that there is an element of truth that there is a lot of sacrifice associated with certain roles. But I also believe it's important to have a line and certain things that you just don't miss. And my opinion is that if you're the CEO of a company and you run the company, then you have the privilege of being in charge of your own schedule, and you command a level of respect uh, and of your time, that you can value your own time, and part of that is prioritizing your family. So he gives the example of his kid's birthday. It's very easy. That's a very easy thing for other people to understand, that you can't miss that. I think there's certain things that you just can't miss in life, and birthdays is one of them. So what I'd say is you got to draw the line somewhere, regardless of where you are at in your career, regardless of what you're doing. There are certain elements of your family time that should be held sacred, and I think birthdays is one of them. It's I just don't understand why it's a point of pride to not have any boundaries. I think that it's regardless of what you do and how far you are in your career, there should be boundaries between your work life and your family life. I like the comments here, so I'm gonna go ahead and read them. This one says, "That's okay. You missed their birthdays. They'll miss your funeral. People like this don't understand what life is about. We are not cogs in a machine. We are not robots or drones. We get one chance, one shot at happiness before entropy dissolves us into the universe again." Paraphrasing here, but whoever said the only people who remember that you worked late are your family absolutely nailed it. Yep. So I'd say 10 out of 10 on the scale of LinkedIn lunatic. I'm sorry, man. It's just there are boundaries. I mean, yes, there is a give and take. Work-life balance is a balance. It's a scale that goes sometimes one way, sometimes another way, but there are certain things that you should prioritize and you should set time aside for. And if you do not prioritize your family, then what are you doing it for? And I know that he said that, well, I'm doing this to build a life for my family. Well, what life are you having with your family if you're not? What life for your family if you're not spending time with that family? All right, next one. Dude sitting across from me at the airport tried to get a chick's info by asking her to add him on LinkedIn. He then proceeded to open LinkedIn, tell her he was trying to find her on LinkedIn, and then showed her profiles he thought might be her while telling her to add him. She literally just stood up and walked away. LOL. Okay. So I can see trying to network with somebody in the airport. I've met people on planes before, that I have had really cool conversations with about their careers, and then I've networked with them, and I've added them on LinkedIn, especially if you're traveling during the business hours, the flight times that people are doing business travel or flying on. It's it's a good place to connect with people, and you never know, if you're flying from one place to another, you might find that somebody else that is in the same community as you, or going into the same community that you work in, is in your industry, and they're a good person to connect with. But in this instance, this individual was trying to harass a woman into giving her his contact info in the form of LinkedIn, maybe trying to flex his job by showing her his LinkedIn profile. and that's a little bit cringe, buddy. Um, the fact that she just stood up and walked away shows that that was not a very welcome interaction. And the fact that he was showing her profiles that he thought that were hers, so he was either looking over her shoulder and maybe finding her name and trying to look her up. I have no idea, man, but this is just bordering on creeper territory. So, guys, don't do this. If you want to talk to somebody, just talk to them, have a conversation with them. And if you have a great conversation with them and you want to connect with them on LinkedIn, go for it. If you talk to a woman and you have a great conversation with her and you want to keep in touch with her and ask her for her number, go for it. But maybe LinkedIn's not the way to do that. And definitely not if it's unwarranted or not asked for, or they're giving you cues that they're not interested. Guys, we can be better. We can do a better job. We don't have to harass women. We can do a little bit better job here, guys. So 10 out of 10 on the lunatic scale for that one. All right, guys, let's take a quick breather. We're going to move into the college questions next, right after this break. All right, and we are back with our college questions. The first question is titled, How Does Everyone Do It? I just took my second exam out of three that are all within a week. I absolutely failed it. I didn't even finish half the problems. For the last week and a half, I've spent nearly every waking hour in class doing homework, studying solo, or at a group study. The times I haven't been doing school stuff, I've been doing things like eating, internship interviews, and showering. I literally had to make sacrifices and choose not to turn in some homework to get other homework done and prepare for my exams. I hadn't been grocery shopping in 2 weeks because I did not have the time. Yet I have classmates who are taking all the classes I am and more, and they're working and they're in student organizations and doing a whole lot more than me, yet they're still getting their homework done and doing well on exams. How? I genuinely feel like I'm putting all I have into my schooling and it's not paying off. Well, you've done the right thing. You've come and asked us, other people, other engineers and engineering students, how they do it. And what I'd say is, it sounds like you're doing all the right things. At least you're doing all the things that people tell you to do, right? You're doing practice problems. You're attending class. You're doing your homework. You're studying your solo. You're studying in groups, and then you're doing things like interviewing for an internship and keeping yourself groomed, and then prioritizing things. It sounds like you're trying to prioritize yourself getting ready for exams. It sounds like you're doing all the right things, but I'm wondering how effectively you're doing those things. So my question is to you, if you're at a group study, um, how are you involved in that group? Are you the person that is having other people explain stuff to you? Are you able to explain stuff to other people? Exercise, the whole point of group study is you're working on problems together, right? You're getting stuck, but somebody else figures it out, or you're trying to figure things out together, and then you're explaining things to one another, and you're learning, and you're basically taking that self discovery time that learning how to do it time, and you're cutting that time down because somebody else in your group has discovered the fundamental switch on how to solve that problem or that kind of problem. Because right when you're studying for exams, you're studying, you're trying to understand the material, not just to get how to get the answer, but what the critical decision points and the knowledge points and the things that you have to discover when solving problems, that you have to take into account whenever you're solving those problems. So for example, if I'm doing a question and it's thermo and it's Bernoulli, but I also have to, oh, for this type of question, I have to check. I'm I'm gonna embarrass myself here, but oh, it's you have to remember the pressure's constant because, or the pressure is atmospheric here or something like that. Just because it's open to the air, so the gauge pressure is zero, and yet and that's kind of the pivotal thing here that kind of makes the question possible to solve. It's just stuff like that, right? You're studying with a group of people. Are you the type of person that's kind of having things explained to you, and then whenever you have it explained to you, then you say, oh, I solved the problem? Or are you going back and thinking, okay, that's how I solve the problem. That's how I do it. And then you're practicing it and then you're doing it again with your own understanding and then documenting, okay, this is one of those things that I need to remember whenever I'm solving problems. Or are you the kind of person that just kind of has it explained to you? When you're studying solo, what are you doing when you're studying solo? Are you studying solo effectively? Are you studying solo while doing practice problems? Are you just reading your notes? What are good study habits that other people in your class are doing that set them up for success? So what I do is not only ask us, but ask those people in those group sessions that are doing better than you and say, hey, when you're studying on your own, what are you doing? Like, hey, I'm doing this. It's not really working for me. What's working for you? Are you keeping like a kind of a memorization sheet that key points you need to remember that you can kind of review before exams as you're solving practice problems and studying for exam, here's the things I have to remember so that way, I have the same reference base that I had whenever I was studying with all my material in front of me. Or there's other people that are doing homework and they're getting their homework done. How are they getting their homework done in time? How are they able to get their homework done and also to be ready for the exams? What I'll say is if you're skipping homework that's related to content on an exam, I'd say that that's probably not a good idea. You probably need to at least be doing that homework. But yeah, if you're putting in all the effort and it's not paying off, maybe you're just not being as effective with your time as other people are. So trying to maybe expand your study group to include the people that are doing better than you, if the people that you're studying with now aren't doing better than you. Um, Going to class is good. You definitely need to be going to class. Um, Here's a question for you. Are you sleeping well? Do you have test anxiety? Um, Maybe another question you could ask your peers, and if you have a testing center at school, maybe you can either maybe look into seeing whether or not you qualify for testing accommodations if you have test anxiety. But are you using good test taking skills? You said that you didn't even finish half the problems. So are you in a situation where you're getting stuck on problems and then you just get stuck and then you run out of time? What I've found is the most effective way to take an exam is to go through the entire exam from the front to back and solve all the problems that I know how to solve right away first, and then come back to the ones that are going to take me longer, so that way I'm not giving up points on questions that I would have been able to answer. But it's just things like that. Maybe somebody else that maybe you could talk to somebody else about how you approach studying for an exam, how you approach taking exams, and somebody that's doing well that cares about you or that's nice enough to share their knowledge might say, hey, you know what? I don't do that because that's either a waste of time or I it's just not an effective use of my time during an exam. You might also find that people that are doing well, maybe they have practice exams that you haven't had access to, and if it's within your university honor code and you're allowed to take practice exams and look at past exams, then maybe you're missing out on something like that. Maybe the type of practice problems that you're doing to prepare for exams are not the type of practice problems you should be doing. Maybe other people that are doing well in your exams said, hey, all the exam questions are really like the questions that are in the back of the problem set that are in our book. So do a few of those, and if you can solve those, then you're setting yourself up well for the exam. So basically, what I'm saying is you've done step one, you've asked us, and these are the types of things that you need to be now asking your peers, because if they're doing better than you, they're doing something that you're not doing. And this happened to me after my first Calc 3 exam. I didn't do very well. And then I asked my peers, it's like, hey, you got a 98 on that exam? They're like, yeah, it was easy. And I was like, oh, I thought it was so hard. How'd you study for it? And they're like, oh, well, I did practice problems from this and this and this. I said, oh my gosh, you did practice problems from this and this and this? I didn't even think of doing that. And then next thing you knew, my study habits improved in that class. And then I had that same professor for my next math class. And then I made an A in their class. So I don't think that you need to write yourself off yet. I think that you'll be okay. So that's what I'd say is you just have some more questions to ask your peers that are doing better than you in exam. I wish you the best of luck, and I think that you'll be fine. Keep on asking around and keep on using that same level of energy and intensity that you're applying towards your career and in general, and maybe apply it a little bit more effectively. All right, next question is, I don't think I want to continue my major, computer engineering. Hi there. I'm in my third year at a community college pursuing a computer engineering degree. I'm taking my second coding class and I'm realizing that I genuinely dislike coding. I don't like any of my classes, to be honest. I hate school. I'm doing okay, 3.4 GPA. Good job. But I'm so stressed and honestly don't know if I'm cut out for this. I was originally planning to do environmental engineering major, but my dad, who's a software engineer, discouraged the idea and said it's not worth it. So I switched and was behind in coding. I never touched code until college either, so it's so boring to me. My older sister also did software engineering, so I just went with computer engineering because they kind of said it was a good idea. Every time I do homework, I can't stop thinking about how much I hate it. Honestly, I don't dislike math, but that's about it. I wasn't amazing at it, but I got through calculus 1, 2, and 3 and enjoyed it. I just really don't like coding. I don't love my physics classes either. I don't know what to do. I look at other engineering disciplines and kind of feel the same way. I don't know why I got into this. I couldn't figure out anything to do with school that I actually really like that leads to a high paying job. I put all my eggs in one basket and I have no clue what to do now. I'm not even that interested in engineering. Nothing else seems that appealing either. I wish someone could tell what the right thing to do is. Okay, so you said that you put all your eggs in one basket, and I don't think that's true. You're in community college. It's not like you've taken out a bunch of student loans and you've gone to a private university across country and you're all by yourself. I mean, you're in a community college. You're taking exploratory classes. Yeah, it's your third year, but you have a good GPA, which means that you could transfer into another major, into another school. You'll be fine, and you have a rigorous coursework underneath your belt. So you are not eggs in one basket. There might be some sunk costs if you decide to leave engineering, but you're not all eggs in one basket and you're not setting yourself way far behind. You can definitely come out of this. But here's what I'd say. And you say that you look at the other engineering disciplines and you kind of feel the same way, that you don't know why you got into this. And it sounds like also a lot of the things that you're doing, you wanted to do environmental engineering, but then you were talked into software engineering. So you have made a lot of the decisions so far based on what other people have said that they think is best for you in your career. And what I want you to do is I want you to take ownership in your own career. And you said that I wish someone could tell me what the right thing to do is. This is where you this is where you find out what those other people are doing. So what I encourage you to do is try to connect with engineers. Um, Go on LinkedIn. You can ask me, and I'll connect you with other engineers that I know in my field. I'm happy to connect you with people that I know, that I have a lot of friends that do a lot of really cool things, and other engineers. There are other engineers out there that are like me that love talking about their career, what they do. Also, there's a podcast called the Being an Engineer podcast, hosted by Aaron Moncor, which he was a guest on this podcast. I think that was episode 39 or 40 of the podcast. It was one of my interviews, and it brings on a bunch of engineers, and they talk about all the cool things that they do. What I want you to do is I want you to talk to engineers that do cool things. Listen to engineers talk about the cool things they do, and kind of understand and rediscover that passion that you had for engineering, uh, or see if that passion is still there, the same passion that you had whenever you decided you wanted to pursue environmental engineering in the first place. Because there's so many things that engineers do. I mean, so many things. And if you would have told me that I'd be doing what I'm doing now, which is not technical design engineering at all, at least not at its core, or what you stereotypically think of technical design engineering to be, if you would have asked me, "Hey, Daniel, would you be doing this? Would you be a commercial manager?" If you asked me that freshman year of college, freshman year of high school, I would have said, "What is that? I don't have no idea." But now I get so much joy out of it. I was reviewing a contract the other day, and it made me so happy. I don't know why it makes me so happy. Well, I think I know why it makes me so happy, but I didn't know why it makes me so happy until I started doing it and I started trying it, and I talked to somebody else that did it, and I said, "Wow, that's really cool. That's a lot of fun. I think I'd enjoy doing that." So listen to Aaron's podcast, Being an Engineer. It's a good podcast. I also have a couple episodes on this podcast where I talk to different engineers about what they do. Consider listening to them, like Emma Burbick's episode 3 of the podcast. Listen to her talk about what she does. But yeah, I think you just need to take ownership of your own career and pursue something that you want to do. And it could be engineering. It doesn't have to be engineering, but it could be engineering. It sounds like it's not coding. And I don't blame you. I don't like coding. I don't like it at all. So I don't blame you for not liking it. But I still have a career in engineering. So just because I don't like coding doesn't mean that engineering is not set out for me. And just because you don't like physics doesn't mean that engineering is not set out for you either. There are plenty of engineering careers where you don't have to do physics. The other thing I'll tell you is this: an engineering degree is so versatile. And you said you're 3 years in. I don't know how many more years or how many more credit hours you need to complete an engineering degree. And maybe it's computer engineering, maybe it's not. I imagine that some of it will transfer away from computer engineering if you needed it to. But what I would say is if you think that you're good at it, which it seems like you are, 3.4 GPA, you're doing well at it. Even if you don't want to be a design engineer yet, and you're close to finishing the degree, which I don't think you're super close, but maybe you're close enough. You could just finish the degree out if you're good at it. And here's what I'll say is that I knew by the time I graduated from school, I didn't want to do design engineering for my entire career. But I was decent enough at engineering school. I was doing fine, and I, I it was one of those things where it it came naturally to me, the school did, and naturally enough. So I finished it out, and then I started working in a job where I didn't have to do design engineering. But my engineering degree has opened many doors for me in my career, and I'm so grateful that I pursued it. So, what I'd say to you is even if you don't want to necessarily work as a coder, as a design engineer, maybe look in if you want to work in the coding industry, maybe also consider the concept of being a product manager or project manager, see if that's interesting to you. The point is that engineering degree will open your career up to engineering adjacent roles in the engineering industry. So don't write it off. But yeah, so long-winded answer there. All that to say, don't give up. Let's see what the comments say. Similar thing to me. I was doing computer engineering and I didn't like the coding, so I ended up switching to electrical. Since I got pretty far with the coding classes, though, I ended up adding a computer science minor, so I still got credit for the classes I took, but I don't have to take any more since what I took in computer engineering was enough to give me one. I mean, I'm not the best at coding. I don't necessarily like physics, but I'll do it, and I'm not good at science, but I'm studying electrical engineering and find it pretty cool. Maybe have a peek at that. And then here's what I said in my response. The fact that you're doing this community college tells me you're doing the right thing so far and taking it slow and not completely diving in until you realize what you're passionate about something. Sounds like your family, especially your father, has had a significant influence on you, but you're going to have the best career at doing something you really enjoy. What I'd say is spend the rest of the semester keeping your grades up, but start networking with different people in your communities and spend time talking to them about what they do for their career. Call it a career interview, call it a conversation. Just start talking to people. Hopefully, as a result, you'll find someone in your career network has made a career out of doing something that you find really cool. And then you can redirect your education in that direction. By the way, that can still be engineering. Listen to the Being an Engineer podcast. Uh-huh. It's a really cool engineering career podcast hosted by Aaron Monker, where he asks different engineers about what they do within their discipline. For me, my engineering degree was just to get the degree onto the mantle, and since I've found a non-technical niche within the industry that brings me great joy. Maybe from your conversations and listening to his podcast, you might find a niche you're interested in or a new field entirely. Best wishes. And they said, thank you. I'll give that podcast a go. So yeah, I that's my advice. I hope you find it helpful, and best wishes with you in your career journey. All right, guys, we're going to take a quick breather and we're going to come back with the career questions. I'll talk to you in a second. All right, and we are back. Thank you for hanging in through the break there. We're going to start with our next segment of the podcast, which is career questions. The first one is titled Boss asked slash told me to start traveling out of the blue. Is this reasonable for most jobs, or am I right to be upset slash distraught? Is it reasonable for me to be asked to travel once a month now when I had previously not been traveling at all? I've been at my current job for almost 4 years now as a mechanical engineer, and kind of out of the blue, I'm being asked slash told to start traveling monthly. The trip will be 3 days. First day driving, about 7 hour drive. Second day working. Third day driving back. I'm expected to work until mid afternoon the first day and then drive to the destination. I'm not really a fan of doing this, and it wasn't something I was told I would need to do when I took this job. I was told travel would be once or twice a year and not necessarily overnight. But now I'm being told I'll be the guy to do it, and it will be monthly. I don't want to do this at all, but I'm afraid I'll be fired if I don't do it. Had I known travel would be a significant component of the job, at least this amount of traveling feels significant to me, I would not have taken this job, but I don't have any other options. If it were a day trip, I wouldn't mind, but because of the timing of the trip, it basically means that once a month I'll work a 55 to 60 hour week. Is it reasonable to gain this new responsibility? Am I just being a baby? So it sounds like the expectation was is once a year, and maybe that was also in the job posting or the job description. You might want to go back and review the job description for the job that you applied for. You might be able to point to that and talk to your manager. Have you been promoted since then? New job, if you've been promoted, your new job description may be different. But I think it's reasonable for you to be traveling as an engineer. Sometimes we do work and then we have to go visit it in the sites. But I don't think that it's reasonable for them to expect you to travel on your own time. See, they say the trip will be 3 days. First day driving, about 7 hours drive. Second day working. Third day driving back, and you're expected to work until mid-afternoon the first day, and then drive to the destination. What I'd say is that you got to travel on company time, or you have to be allowed to have the option to travel on company time because you're traveling for the company, so you should be considered traveling on company time. And if they want to have you travel outside of company time, then they're opening themselves up to overtime or some other kind of arrangement of compensation. I don't think it's fair of them to expect you to, when you travel, work additional hours. And maybe your boss just suggested that without really thinking about it. Maybe that's just what they do. But I think it's personally reasonable for you to say, hey, boss, that's fine. I can travel, but I'm going to be traveling. I'm going to leave at this time and I'm going to travel during work hours because I'm working. Also, there's are you traveling using a company car? You should be using a company car, or if you have a personal car, make sure they're not just paying for your gas. They're giving you the IRS reimbursement rate. And if they're making you take your personal car and you don't want to take your personal car, do ask if you have the option to take a rental car instead. If you don't want to put extra wear and tear on your personal vehicle, I would personally prefer not to put that wear and tear on my personal vehicle and rather take a rental car if I'm driving on company business, even if I'm traveling from my home destination where I have my personal vehicle. I'd rather drive on a company trip in a company vehicle or a rental vehicle. If you're not a fan of it, then you're not a fan of it. And I mean, I don't think your boss will fire you if you just ask, "Hey, is this really what you need me to do? Am I really the person that needs to do this?" I will say though that it could slightly limit your career growth because as you grow in your career, oftentimes the higher up in your career, the more likely you are going to be expected to have some travel in your career, and a complete resistance to the idea of traveling could potentially limit your career growth. And even if it's not necessarily directly limiting your career growth in this role, and maybe your boss says, "Okay, that's fine, you don't have to travel." It'll probably always live in the back of their mind, which is something that if you're okay with that, then you're okay with that. Um, but let's see what the comments say. They say, as somebody who traveled 30 weeks a year, you need to find out one, are you paying travel time? AKA, are you clocked in while driving? It doesn't matter if your salary, are you considered on the clock while driving? If yes, any accidents you may get into should be covered by the employer and workers' comp. If no, then ask that you are. Compensation could be additional overtime or additional PTO hours accrued. Two, are they paying you mileage? Let's talk about that. The current IRS mileage rate is 65.5 cents per mile. A 7 hour drive sounds like 400 miles, or roughly $800 round trip. That's $524 per trip. If they refuse, ask if they'll fly you. It'd probably be cheaper anyways, and it will save you time. Three, I'm assuming you're staying in a hotel. Are they paying for your food? You're losing the ability to cook for yourself and being forced to eat out. They should be covering all expenses, including a daily food per diem. Four, don't let them give you a corporate credit card. Instead, ask to be reimbursed for all expenses. Get a Marriott credit card, Delta, Hilton, or whoever, and rack up points. Also, stay at the same hotel chain and rack up reward points. Always pay your card off right after you get reimbursed. If you're staying 2 nights in a hotel a month, 24 nights a year, and using your card to pay for gas and food, you'll probably rack up enough points for a full week every year. The travel may be inconvenient, but it should come with perks. If it doesn't, well, then push back if possible or ask for an increase in pay. That's really good advice. I got most of those things. I personally travel using a corporate credit card. Um, sometimes whenever I drive, I do take a personal vehicle and then I get reimbursed the IRS reimbursement rate. I said that I prefer not to, but when I moved, I drove personal vehicles and I got reimbursed the IRS rate for that move. It just depends on your situation. Some companies require you to get a corporate card. But yeah, there's just some questions you need to ask to define your experience. So, but definitely, I'd avoid the idea of them making you drive while not on the clock. I think that's a big point to consider here. So, best of luck with you and your situation. Next question. Job that rejected me 3 months ago for asking for too high of a salary. Post another job with the salary range I asked for. So I applied to a job 3 months ago and was rejected because I brought up my salary expectations during the interview, and they said they could not match it and do not have the funds. The same department in this company posted another job in the same salary range that I asked them for. I'm not applying to it, but I'm still salty about the whole ordeal on how they were offended by me stating my salary expectations during the interview. And the top comment is several other applicants said the same salary that you did. Yep, that's the reality. Is that they learned, thanks to you and other people like you for that gave them their salary expectations, that their original salary that they had posted for the job was below the market salary for that position. So hey, if you otherwise like the company, I know you're still a little bit salty, but maybe consider applying. They already liked you enough to interview you. Honestly, it's kind of embarrassing that they aren't reaching back out to you. But if you liked the job and you liked the company, then and you just had a bad experience maybe with that one person that wasn't the manager, maybe it was somebody from HR. Um, Go ahead and apply again. Never know. You might find that you get picked up really quick at the salary that you wanted. But that's right. That's how it works. Is we give salary expectations, we give feedback. We don't take less than we're worth, and then companies understand it and they pay what people are worth. So good. I mean, that's just how it works. Let's read the comments. Leverage. If they come back after a couple weeks offering to meet an offer that they previously couldn't do, it looks like they want you pretty bad. Might as well tell them to demand skyrocketed and you want an additional 10K now. With fresh candidates, the frog has fresh water to boil in and they'll push for as low into that range as possible. Okay, so that's maybe why they don't reach back out to you. But hey, keep on stating your worth, people. It's good. The companies will get the message, because if they need to have the people and the people state their worth, then eventually they'll have to pay what people are worth. They'll reposition. All right. Next question. This is an interesting one. How do you ensure a bad candidate fails an interview? To keep things simple, there's a candidate applying for a position that I personally know to be a horrible fit for the team. Poor work ethic, toxic, not a team player, etc. Problem is, this person interviews very well, and the rest of the interview panel may be easily swayed. In what way could I possibly ensure this candidate does poorly in this interview to keep our team from making a poor decision? To further complicate things, our boss only takes one person's opinion over the rest of the panel, and this person is easily swayed and makes a lot of poor choices. Are there some particular questions I can ask that would reveal this person as a poor fit? How can I stop this person from being hired? Any help appreciated? Yeah, I would say that's not the place. I mean, you just ask them the same questions that you ask anybody else. If you do anything else, or you start grilling them in a way that is different than you handle any other candidate interviewing for a job, you may come across as salty, you come across as unprofessional. That's definitely not what you do. What you do instead is you have a candid conversation with your manager and say, hey, I know this person from X capacity. They interview really well. They're a really good interviewer. But I've had the opportunity to work with them as a teammate. I've had an opportunity to do this. I've had the opportunity to do that, and I just know that they're not a good fit for the team. And I know that they haven't changed because of X. If you know they haven't changed, maybe they have changed. Um, but what I'd say is, boss, I I think that they'd really mess up our team dynamic. And a lot of interviewing people is obviously, can you do the job technically, but also a large part of interviewing is behavioral. Would you be a good fit for our team? And if you like the team dynamic that you're in right now, and it's a good working team, and your boss agrees, then they're not going to want to mess up the dynamic. So say, hey, boss, I know this about this person. I know that they on paper they look very qualified, they interview very well, but I just need you to trust me here. They're not a good fit because of X and Y. And I know that may be unfortunate to hear, but it's just my experience, and I just know it from my experience. It might be a headache, and I just want you to be aware of it because I want the best for the team. And if you have a good boss, then they'll listen to you. Um, and I know you said that they only take the opinion of one person and that person is easily swayed, but that's just not the way to handle this. If they don't take your input and they hire the person anyways, then that's just is going to be a decision that you have to make for your own career. Um, it's really not sabotaging somebody in an interview is not professional. Here's the comment that I like really here. That kind of sabotaging is not professional. If you're on an interview panel but aren't the decision maker, offer your input and the reasons for it and let it go. If it's an internal candidate, get their current manager's input. If external, check their references. And if you know the candidate personally, excuse yourself from the process because you're biased. Maybe, maybe not. Uh, it's up to you. But I would just say, boss, this is what I have to say just from knowing this person, and this is how I feel. I would not try to sabotage them in their interview at all. All right, next question. It's titled, Not Sure What I Want to Do Now. Hey, everybody. I'm in my final year of engineering, mechatronics. I'm generally an aerospace enthusiast. However, now after my bachelor's, I'm not sure if I want to do a master's. I'm more inclined towards starting a business of my own, even though I haven't decided what exactly. Point is, I'm not sure if I want to spend close to $30,000 for a master's when I can use that money to start a business. I've been told to work in a specific industry, and once I've got enough experience, I can start my own. Please advise. I think you've gotten good advice. If you want to start a business and you don't have an idea on how to start a business, especially a sophisticated aerospace company or any kind of engineering services, it's going to be difficult for me to hire you or pay you to do anything if you don't have any experience. And it's going to be difficult for you to come up with a product line or anything service that you can sell to somebody without experience. So you've gotten good advice. I'd say is work in this industry that you want to work in. It sounds like aerospace. So get some jobs in aerospace. And yes, you with a mechatronics engineering degree, that transfers to aerospace. So work in the aerospace industry. And if you do want to start your own business, what I'd say is, be very thoughtful where you're working. Think about, is there a problem in this industry that I can solve from your experience working in that industry? And if there's a problem that you can solve, or then maybe start your own company, or maybe you get a bunch of experience and you become an expert in your field. Then you can go into consulting, and then you can start your own business as a consultant. But starting from square one is actually from square zero. Trying to start a business is just setting yourself up for failure. I'd also say is if you're not sure that you want to get a master's, don't get one. You only want to get a master's if you know exactly what you want to get your master's in, and you know why you want to get your master's and how it will transfer to what you want to do with your career. You can always get a master's later, but don't get one just for the sake of getting one. Uh, it's just it, it would be a bummer if you specialized in something that you didn't want to do for the rest of your career. Waste of time, waste of opportunity to earn money, and you're just putting yourself further in the wrong direction. So not sure what you want to do now. You've gotten good advice. Work in the field for a little while, feel it out, see what you want to do, and then move on with your career. Let's see what the comments say. I wouldn't pay for a master's. Good. If my employer opts to pay for one, I'll take the offer, but spending the money isn't a plan of mine. If I were in your shoes, I'd get a job and start making money, gaining experience while you formulate a business strategy and outline. There are a lot of aspects to business that aren't evident until you see them in action. Very good. Spend time honing in on what your approach will be so that when you execute, there will be less issues. Yeah. And this one is kind of what I said. Make sure you're not defaulting to get a master's because you don't know what your path is. It's a very expensive thing to be unsure about, both intuition and loss of wage. It's not a bad idea to enter the workforce for a year or two to get some experience and decide if that is truly what you want to do. But if you have a business idea, it doesn't hurt to go work in the field, see how the business industry works, and then also kind of pursue that industry on the side until it's really a legitimate business. Um, but yeah, uh, I wish you the best of luck, and uh, I think that if you just kind of start your career, it'll start growing. All right, next question. This one is titled, My Manager is Telling Me to Fake My Job Title and Email Signature. So I started less than a year ago, right out of college, at a pretty large firm. I've been on a project with my manager and one of his other subordinates who has maybe 3 years of experience. My coworker, the other person beside my manager, has been out on parental leave for a while, so I've had to take charge a bit since our manager is busy with lots of other stuff and mostly just checks our work off. Anyway, there's been a lot of back and forth recently in emails between the architects and the contractors for this project. Obviously, my email signature has my current job title in it, which is some variation on a typical graduate engineer title. But my boss is now telling me to remove the graduate part because it doesn't exactly inspire confidence when emails are all coming from a graduate engineer. This seems super sketchy, but I'm also planning on leaving soon anyway, leaving the industry completely, not just the job. So maybe it's just not that big of a deal. It's not that big of a deal. Internal titles versus external titles mean nothing. You're probably on some org chart for the project that just has you as an engineer or engineer one or whatever. Your internal title has nothing to do with your external title that you have on a project. If it's a reimbursable contract with the multiplier, the client has the right to audit your. They probably have the right to audit your company's payment of you anyways. They're probably auditing your W-2s and your job titles anyways. They probably already know what your internal job title is. But yeah, it doesn't make that big of a deal. It doesn't make that big of a difference, really, honestly. You just removing the title graduate from your title, not a big deal. Not a big deal at all. My internal title has not matched my external title for the longest time. Here we go. Titles are meaningless. Saying you're a PE when you're not is a big no-no, but otherwise do whatever. We don't have a graduate engineer as a title where I work. Just put project engineer or EIT. I've got a dude who emails me with drafter extraordinaire in his signature, but can't draft his way out of a cardboard box. It's all BS anyways. Why would you put graduate engineers? That just screams, I have no idea what I'm doing. Of course they don't want you putting that. Yeah, just do whatever your company wants you to do. Not a big deal. Not a big deal at all. All right. Next question. Titled, so I and my team, but mostly me, just destroyed a $1,000 piece of machinery today. CEO of the company wants us to have a meeting to go together tomorrow with all of us. What should I expect going into this, and what should I do to prepare? Basically, title. I destroyed a piece of machinery by using it improperly. I've only been at my current workplace for 3 months and had about a year of experience in this specific field, though I have 5 years experience in immediately adjacent fields. I'm the most junior person on the team, and I was shown how to use this thing on day one. I've used it wrong every time since then. I wasn't sure if I was using it wrong or not, and I repeatedly asked for guidance on it, but whenever I did, the answer always was along the lines of, well, that is technically wrong, but I do it like that all the time. I wouldn't worry about it. While using it improperly as I had been, combined with some stars aligning outside of my immediate control, resulted in the complete and utter destruction of this machine. Total loss, completely unrecoverable. No one was hurt, but everyone in the shop got a hell of an adrenaline drop. It was pretty violent. Justifiably, the CEO of the company wants to meet with the whole crew in person. No one here has even met the CEO in person. All we know is he is 70 years old, has 50 years of experience doing what we do, and is a bit of a local legend, both for his sheer competency and his epic temper. Although he is significantly mellowed out if rumors hold true. I'm really scared what he's going to say. I don't want to lose this job. It's definitely the best I've ever had. I'm just looking for some advice on what I can say that will let me thread the needle of keeping this job and not blaming everyone but myself. Sounds like the CEO just wants to know what happened and how we can improve processes moving forward. At least that was what my approach would be, because it broke, you can probably write it off. Really, it's a safety thing, right? Nobody got hurt, so that's awesome. But we still got to do a recon on the issue and understand what we can do in the future to prevent this thing from happening again. That's what I'd say is going on from the CEO's perspective. So I really wouldn't worry about it. Um, I mean, it's just one of those things where it happens, right? It happens. And it sounds like the CEO is just trying to understand what happened. Um, so I wouldn't worry about it too bad. So it sounds like you weren't trained appropriately. So I mean, I wouldn't point the finger, but if he asks you, what happened, just tell him what happened. And I think you'll keep your job. And nobody will really look bad at you for telling people how it is, because that's how it is. So here let's read the comments, because I think this is a very common story and other people have similar things. All right, here we go. Top comment goes: when I was working at Intel, I dropped a container of thousands of computer chips worth over $1 million. Every single processor in it was completely destroyed. I was sent home for the day, and I thought for sure I was done for and had thrown my career away. I got called in for a meeting a few days later, thinking I would be fired. They simply wanted my side of what happened and then put me back to work. After a month, they rolled out new procedures for handling lots across all of Intel. They'd done a whole investigation and root cause analysis and determined while I was the one who dropped it, a bunch of systematic things had gone wrong along the way for me to be put in that position, including robots that normally do part of the transfer process being down. Exactly. You ultimately broke the machine, but there were systematic failures that put you in a position to break the machine as a new employee. They focused on the systematic failures that led to it happening, not on me, and they corrected those systematic failures across the board. They didn't correct you. They said all I had done was lose my grip, which is something humans do. It's a simple human error. And if the equipment was working, I wouldn't have been put in a position to be using my fallible human grip in the first place. I don't have any advice, but my experience taught me that these big incidents are rarely one person or one group of people at fault. If a mistake happened this big, then it likely wasn't any one person's fault. And if your employer is worth working for, they will find those faults and address them, not you. And you said that your employer is a little bit of a local legend. He knows what he's doing. He's run a business for a long time. He has a lot of experience, and he's probably seen similar things, is what I'd say. So, if your company is worth working for, they will fix the bigger problem, not you. So, just be honest. Tell them what happened, so that way they can fix the real problem. And if you come across as trying to be weaselly about it, that's just going to leave a bad taste in your mouth. And we have incidents that happened out in construction fields all the time. It's a similar thing. We had a guy that got injured, and we brought him in, and he sat in front of all of the leaders of our project, and told the story of what happened. And the company he worked for was a subcontractor of ours. They came in and they told and said, "Hey, we learned something from this, and we are changing this process, and we are looking into other similar processes to see how we can prevent this from happening again in the future." And that's what a good company does. That's what good company culture does. It doesn't just point the finger at a person and get rid of them and say, "Hey, this is all on you." A good company looks at the situation and says, "Oh, we have a problem to fix, so let's fix it." And it's not just by getting rid of somebody. So wouldn't worry about it too much. Just keep on doing your thing, and be honest with the CEO. I hope the meeting went well, because this was posted a while ago without update, but I hope the meeting went well. All right. Next question, second to last question. This question is titled, "Is it weird that I still call my mom after work every day?" Hey, this is an interesting question for my podcast, but there's a reason why I like it. I, 25 male, was walking to the train station with some new coworkers when I got a call from my mom. We chatted about what went on at the office that day and how things were at home. After I hung up, a few of them made offhanded remarks about how it was weird for me to talk to her about my day. And when I mentioned I try to do this every day, they said that was especially weird. Is there a cutoff age for interacting with your folks? She's one of my best friends. No, there's not a cutoff age for interacting with your folks. And if anybody's weird, it's your friends for having weird relationships with their parents where they don't feel like they can talk to them regularly, and then they want to make fun of you for it. I call my parents at least once or twice a week on my way home from work. And whenever I was interning, I called my grandpa um, on the way home from my internship almost every single day. And it was the best thing. And I'm so grateful that I did that, because him and I got to have so many conversations and talk about so many things near the end of his life that I don't know if I would have ever gotten to talk to him about. So I'm really grateful that I did that, because you have loved ones, people you care about, you only have so long with them. So you should take advantage of the time you have with them to talk to them, and people that care about you want to know about what's going on with your day. So no, it's not weird at all to call your mom after work every day, at all. Not weird at all. So they're the weirdos, not you. It's perfectly normal. I call my friends all the time. Top comment says, "There should be no cutoff age. I honestly wish I would do this for my mom. I'm pretty sure I'm going to regret it one day that I don't. Hey, it's 5 to 10, 15 minutes a day when I'm driving or taking the train. Give it a shot. It'll make her happy." Yeah. Call your folks, people. Call your folks. All right, guys. Last question. The question is titled, "Is HR trying to tell me to kick rocks?" All right, here we go. Basically, I applied for a job that I believe I'm very qualified for, and it's something I have a lot of interest in. It's been a week since I heard anything. So yesterday, I emailed them for a follow-up. HR told me that the hiring manager is out of town, and that I should get back from them about 2 weeks, or it'll take a while for them to catch up, because it'll take a while for them to catch up and review resumes. Does this sound normal, or are they basically hoping I forget about it? It sounds very normal. People take vacation in 1 week increments. They're probably on vacation. But the fact that the hiring manager is out of town and the hiring manager is the reason why you're on delay, good sign. Very good sign. That means that they want to pass your resume along to the hiring manager. So that's good. But it sounds very normal. A week is nothing in corporate time. Things take a lot more time in the corporate world than we think that they should take on our sides. So yes, it's perfectly normal for this to be the case. You're not you're kind of you don't have anything to worry about. Um, they're not hoping you forget about it. The fact that they even responded to you is a great sign. The fact that you were able to get in touch with and be in communication with HR is great because most people that apply for jobs, you get stuck in a portal and then you never hear back from them. So, hey, calm down, breathe, wait, and then don't scare them off. Yeah, you're fine. Don't worry about it. Let's see what the top comment says. Yes, it's normal. The manager could be out and they could be understaffed and behind. My current job, I was told they had a high volume of candidates and it was taking longer to review. It ended up taking a month before I was contacted for an interview. Sometimes we're really busy is just the truth. And here's another thing. A lot of companies scaled back their HR groups, their hiring groups, their employment groups during COVID, and some of them might not be fully staffed back up yet because they weren't hiring people right during COVID or as many people because they were laying people off. So it's just hiring it's a weird time in the searching for job world, so things are taking longer than they usually take. So just chill and wait. Yeah, I said things. This is my comment. This is normal. Things happen at a company because of people. People have personal circumstances, priorities, etc. And then here's the other comment that I really liked. You applied for a job, you're qualified, and HR have given an arguably personal information about their manager. Why would you take this as a sign of hoping you'd forget it when they've given you a specific time frame for you to hold them accountable and have given you the green light to chase them up in 2 weeks? If anything, this HR seems to be going above and beyond what they are obligated to do. Most companies would just simply, if you're successful, will call you and take months to get back to you, if ever. Note that you have been very qualified, doesn't anywhere close to being obligated to get an interview right away. Your best course of action is to be honest your best course of action, to be honest, is to focus on applying for other jobs so that you can spread out your focus a little bit and don't risk getting too emotionally attached to one position. Yeah. Yeah. So, anyways, best wishes. And I'm sure maybe you'll get an interview. I hope it works out for you. All right, guys. Well, that's been an hour of the Engineering Success Podcast. I hope you guys enjoyed it. We had 5 live viewers that listened live to the podcast on YouTube. If you want to listen to the podcast on YouTube, make sure to subscribe on YouTube. You'll get an email notification when I go live. It's completely free to you, and it helps me out a lot. We're just under 500 subscribers, just over 400, just under 500, depending on how you round. But we're approaching 500 subscribers, which will get us halfway to our monetization requirement. We have 2 videos on YouTube that have hit over 10,000 views. Thank you guys for watching on YouTube. And we're getting about 70 to 80 downloads per episode on the audio version. So we're trending upwards, guys. So thank you for your support. I really appreciate it. If you like the podcast, please consider sharing it with somebody you think also might like it. If you want to be on the podcast, shoot me an email at daniel@engringsuccess.com. And as always, thank you for listening to this episode. I am your host, Daniel Dollinger, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye.
I'm miscommunicating. I just made a pilot, then they threw me on the stations. Nah, I'm not complaining. Nah, I'm not complaining. My thoughts get complicated. I cannot explain in lameness. Never losing focus because I ain't chasing payments. Still playing in the basement while I'm working on arrangements. They heard the kid in 50 countries. Thank God that's amazing. But I'd rather thank Spotify. They put me on the station.